Josh from barnfinds.com here in the Barn Find shop with our latest project car. We just picked up this Porsche 914. It's a 1975, so it's got the 1.8 liter in it. When we actually looked at this car, we initially passed on it. It didn't run very well, and it's been repainted in resell red. It was originally a light blue color, which looks fantastic. It's a beautiful color, but we test drove the car and it was just gutless. Something just didn't seem right. It's got a single carb setup on it, so we thought, well, maybe that's part of the problem. But the price seemed a little high. Headed back to our shop, to our office, and it kind of hit us that the car was super solid. And I then thought about the fact that our other 914, our Ravinia green example back there, our 73 2-liter, it didn't run very well when we got it either. And it ended up just being a simple job of adjusting the valves. So we called the seller up and we said, hey, actually we got to have that car. So we went back, we bought it, limped it back to our shop. I think it's only a little over a mile from where he lived at to our shop. We got it here, let it cool off, popped the valve covers off, adjust the valves. It now runs great. So we've been driving it some, we've been really enjoying it. We decided, hey, why don't we go ahead and make this car look really good, or as well as it can look. So I started playing with the paint a little bit and did a little test sample down here in the rear quarter where I lightly wet sanded it and then buffed it, and it turned out fantastic. So I went ahead and did the deck lid over the rear trunk. It looks amazing. So we're gonna go ahead and do the whole car. So I just wanted to do a quick video kind of showing the process of how we're gonna bring back this paint on this car. It's a single stage enamel, so it shouldn't be that hard. We do have to wet sand a little bit in a few areas. I think the sides will be able to just buff out. But the tops have lots of oxidization, lots of issues, orange peel. There's a good chance that this is a Mako paint job or some other cheap job, a home job or something. And it doesn't look like it's ever been color sanded. So we'll go ahead and color sand it, buff it out, and it's gonna look great. But to get it there, we're gonna need some equipment, some supplies. So I've got first my, if I can grab it here, my wet sandpaper. I've got 1,000 grit and 2,000 grit. Sometimes I'll work with just straight 1,500 and just go over a whole car with 1,500 grit. But where this one has so much orange peel, I'm gonna do 1,000 grit on our upper surfaces, and then I'll probably have to stage it with my 2,000 grit. Areas that don't have any orange peel or just oxidization, I can probably hit it with the 2,000 grit or possibly even just buff it out. So we'll see on that. We're also gonna need our orbital buffer. This is a random orbital from Surehold. It's variable speed. I love this thing, it works amazing. Just has been a great tool. I've used it on a lot of cars so far. We're also gonna need our compounds. So we use Meguiar's compound here. We'll start out with the 105 with the Ultra Cut. That gives us a nice smooth surface. It cuts a lot of material out if we need it to. I actually don't use a whole lot of the compound when I'm buffing, just enough to kind of take that top layer off. But then we'll come in with our 205 and that'll give us a nice glossy finish. Once that's done, we have to decide on this car whether we're going to ceramic coat it or just wax it. So our Ravinia green car, when we finished the paint restoration on it, I actually ceramic coated it. And we discovered that the ceramic coating, it works well on a lot of different types of paint, but the particular coating we used seemed to have reacted with the single stage enamel, specifically on the hood. I'm guessing that the hood was resprayed at some point, and for whatever reason that particular paint reacts negatively with the ceramic coating, and it turned it kind of a frosty. It was kind of opaque. It wasn't very glossy, so I had to strip it back down and then we just wax it. But we'll do some test spots and see how it reacts. We're also going to need a couple other things. This is a big old bag of microfiber towels. So you're not going to need that many. We buy it in bulk because we like to keep our cars nice and clean, and we have lots of things to polish. And then for your orbital buffer, you're going to need a polishing pad. We use the Griot's Garage, the microfiber. These fast finishing pads are awesome. I really like these. I've used lamb's wool, I've used all kinds of synthetics, foams. And so far this has given me the best result. It's really meant to be for finishing and cutting work. With the right compounds and the right technique, you can use this for pretty much every stage. I've used it for even just waxing our cars. Does an amazing job. Doesn't leave swirls, or at least none that I've seen. I haven't had it leave any scarring issues or anything like that. And the beauty is, if you have an air compressor, you can actually blow that built up compound back out of it. It's a dusty mess, but you can keep reusing the pads. So far I've gotten 3 cars out of 1 pad. I also wash them between cars, get all of the compound and old paint out. But yeah, they work amazing. So these are what we'll be using for it. The rest of it is just elbow grease and time. So kick back, relax. I'm gonna do this probably in turbo speed. So it's gonna look way faster than it really is. But yeah, hopefully you learned something today here that you can use on your own classic car. So yeah, let's jump right into it. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead. I got my little bit of compound on my polishing pad here. So we're gonna go ahead and do some more test work here in the quarter, and then we'll move up to the door. Whether you can see it on camera or not, but we've got lots of oxidization up here along the top edge. Because of the trim and the window scrapers, I probably will do a lot of this upper part by hand, which is really time consuming. Probably will not show all that in the video. We'll see kind of how it plays out with editing, but let's go ahead and do a little bit back here, see kind of how it shines up going across the door. I've got my microfiber cloth here ready to go, but let's try it out. Okay, so let's go ahead and take that built up compound off. Typically you want to work small areas at a time. What I did there was mainly just that top edge, so I could kind of see what we have going on. I wanted to see how much I'm going to have to take down, how much needs to be polished. I see that we got some chips here, lots and lots of orange peel along this edge here, a little bit here. I got some various little scratches that look like they're mainly surface, so I can probably actually wet sand those out. And that's kind of the process I like to use. I like to kind of go over the car real quick in the areas that I'm not 100% sure what's happening, and see kind of what happens when I polish them, because I want to take as little material off as I have to. The more material you take off now, the less you have down the road. So we want to try to keep that limited if possible to how much we take down. Now something else I want to try here is polishing by hand on this upper edge to see if I'm going to need to buff it, or if I can with the orbital, or not buff it, if I need to wet sand it. Let's see here, just doing it by hand. It looks like it'll come out glossy. We still got a lot of orange peel in there. Take my towel here. You know, that could probably work. I could probably just polish it by hand up there, but there's a lot of orange peel along here. Whoever sprayed this ran their gun really, really dry, and so we get a lot of splatter and speckling. So yeah, I'll go ahead and take note of this to wet sand just this area. This here is less pronounced. I might be able to just polish that out by hand. We got a scratch here. We'll want to wet sand that. But I want to go ahead and hit this front fender. Let me adjust the camera here, maybe see if I can get it at a better angle. But let's go ahead and see how this transforms. I have a feeling this is gonna look way different polished. We're going to kind of do the same thing. These gaskets here in between are rubber, so I can actually hit right over those. It's not going to matter. Let's see what else we got going on here. So I actually have already washed this car, and it's more or less, it was already prepped, it had been clay barred and everything, so it was pretty much ready for this. You want to make sure that you have your car as clean as you can get before you go polishing on it, so you avoid the risk of scratching it and marring it really bad. But let's see what we got going on there. Okay, so what we'll do is, I don't have a ton of material on a ton of compound on my buffing pad, but I like to start on the flat surfaces and then kind of move up to the curves so I'm not spraying stuff everywhere. Okay. Let's see. Actually looks really good. So partway through there, I sped up my orbital because it kind of changes the composition of the compound as you're working with it. You let the pad do more of the work and you're doing less of the work, which is nice. You get a better gloss that way. You probably can't really tell, but when you're working with these, you want to kind of move your pressure and kind of flow with the panel. I don't want to put too much pressure in one area. I don't want to, overcut in this area. I don't want to burn through. So kind of adjusting it, kind of using the edges of the pad because they can kind of flex, whereas the flat part in the middle, you don't have a lot of flex. So you want it to kind of curve and shape to the panel, so you got to kind of learn how to use the edges of your buffer, the pad. You can't probably see it here on the camera, but we got some ugly oxidization right here still that we'll have to do by hand probably, or take the antenna out and then buff over it. Whether you can see the orange peel on the hood and here on the cowl, it's very pronounced here, less so on the fender, but we definitely have some rippling and some kind of speckly look to this edge of the fender. So I'm definitely going to be wet sanding. This 2000 grit, this is going to be 1000 grit up here on the flat part. That's guaranteed. If you kind of can see too, there's some little black speckles. It's just fiber from my orbital buffer that came out. I probably hit an edge here or something and it's kind of knocked some of them loose. Yeah, so I'm going to go ahead and do the rest of the hood, the rest of this front fender. We'll do this all by hand, and then once we have it kind of polished out just lightly, then we'll go ahead and wet sand that, I think. I don't know, we'll see how that plays out. Okay, so I paused the video for a minute so I could take some time to really study the surface and what we got going on here. That's kind of the beauty and what I really enjoy about restoring paint on cars like this, is that it gives you an opportunity to really study the car out. You learn a lot about the car's history, you kind of learn some of its story. This car, just spending some more time looking at that hood, I was going to try to buff it. I think I mentioned I was going to just try to buff it out and then wet sand and then buff again to kind of see where we're at. But after doing just this little bit right here on the cowl, I 100% know it needs to be wet sanded. So I've got a tray over here with water, it's like a little paint tray, but it's the perfect size for my folded up pieces of wet sandpaper. I got a piece of sandpaper soaking right now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to fold it up and then wet sand this hood. And we'll see kind of how it turns out, what it's going to look like. Just in working with it, I'm noticing a lot of just interesting things. I'm seeing something going on right here. I'm not 100% sure what is happening. I got to pop the hood. It might be the gasket has been sprayed and is popping up through, but we got something going on there that looks weird. Let's go ahead and wet sand it. Let's see what happens. So I'm going to go ahead and start with the 2000 grit instead of the 1000 grit. So I can kind of see how bad the areas are. Let's go ahead and wet that. Yeah. So a lot of this comes down to feel. You can't really see what's happening. I mean, you can look at it and you can see, oh, I got paint coming off. But in terms of what areas you're really hitting, how much you're knocking it down, it's really hard to tell when it's wet because it makes it glossy. So you go a lot off the fill. And right now, this area I've already hit is feeling pretty smooth. I can feel some rough areas, but you feel it drag as you hit areas that have more orange peel. Let's get some of that old material out because that can change the way it feels. Okay, re-wet. Yeah, that's feeling a lot better actually. More like what you'd expect a nice paint job to feel like. Now the beauty of using the 2000 grit rather than the 1000 grit is that I don't have to do anything to prep. I have to clean this old material off, and then I can take the buffer right to it. And if I've left any scratches in it, they're pretty easy to deal with because they're going to be incredibly fine at 2000 grit. Occasionally I got to bust out the 3000 grit sandpaper to fix swirls and stuff like that left from wet sanding, but with 2000 grit, that's pretty uncommon. Really the only car I've had to do that extensively with was our Stingray Corvette that we had that was black. Black paints obviously show swirls significantly worse. So that car got 3000 grit. I don't think we're going to need that here today though, thankfully. Okay, let's go ahead. Wipe this down. Get all that material off as best we can. The pad will pick it all up, but okay. Go over with a dry microfiber here real quick just for the purposes of the video to speed up the drying process. Try this out real quick. We're dried out. From my angle, I can see obviously the little bit of swirling from sanding it, but I can still see a few little speckles of orange peel just where the paint dips. So we have an acquaintance that's a Porsche, I don't know, he's saying expert, but he restores Porsches to an extremely high level. And I was recently looking at one of his 911s and was talking to him about the paint. And he was talking about how he was a Porsche mechanic when he was young in California and was dealing with 911s and 914s when they were brand new. And when he got his 911 repainted, it was crucial to him that the texture of the paint be right. And so we talked a lot about that. And he said that the 911s and the 914s, really all the Porsches, they had a little bit of orange peel to them. Now, not a lot, just a little bit. But so he kind of showed me on his 911 and one of his other cars the difference between an accurate to factory paint job versus just a really nice high gloss paint job, and there really was just a little bit of orange peel left. So whether we need to take this all the way down to where it's perfectly smooth, I don't know. I don't think I do. I think where we're at right now is probably perfect. I don't want to take too much off of this. I don't know how thick this paint is. I know that there's black primer underneath it. So I don't want to take too much off and have dark spots and light spots and issues like that. But this looks pretty good to me. I still got a little bit of orange peel, but not a lot. So I'm going to go ahead and grab the buffer and we're going to see kind of how it looks. Oh yeah, that looks much better. Nice deep red. Go from another angle. Yeah, that is a huge difference. It's hard to capture it on camera, but from where I'm standing, it's just night and day. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and just do the rest of the car. We'll just go ahead and jump forward to it. So after a few hours of hard work, I think we got it done. There's a little bit of touch up and a couple of spots that still need some work, but I've been over the whole car, buffed it, polished it out. Looks nice and wet as it is right now. I also did a test spot for ceramic coating up here in the front. We'll see how it reacts to this paint before we do the whole car. If it goes well though, we'll be able to keep this nice glossy look for a long time without a lot of maintenance. We also have some paint repair, like some touch-ups we need to do along some of the trim and along the edge of the hood. I think there's some in the back too we're gonna have to do, but nothing too serious. At this point, the biggest thing that we have left to do on this car is to detail the inside and clean up the overspray off of some of our rubber gaskets and trim. There's lots and lots of overspray, so I got to find a good solution for that doesn't involve ripping the car apart, but we'll see what we come up with that. If you have any ideas for how to clean up the overspray, the dried on overspray, let me know down in the comments and we'll give it a try, see if we can get this car looking even better. But yeah, I'm pretty excited to take it out. We'll take it out here in a minute and do some walk around videos to see how it looks under natural lighting. Our artificial lighting in here may be a little flattering, but we'll see once we get it outside. But yeah, if you've enjoyed seeing this paint restoration come to life, like this video. If not, you know what to do. Be sure to subscribe to the Barn Finds channel so that you can get more instant updates on our current projects, what we're working on. If you have anything you'd like to see done on this car, if you'd like to learn about how to adjust the valve train or how to tune up the single carb setup,